I wanted to pour one out for the American foamers, the American railway enjoyers. We are never ever getting decent high-speed rail. Okay? We're just not, it's not happening. China's high-speed rail network has passed the 50,000 kilometer mark. The United States has 80. Is Brightline, I think. That's it, right? And from what I understand, Brightline, like there is not a single, I'm pretty sure there's not a single American high-speed rail build out there that is actually reaching the standards of like regular international high-speed rail. Wait, no. Do you think America has 80,000 kilometers? No, America has 80 kilometers total. There's a couple. I think it's longer than 80. I thought it was longer than 80 kilometers, but like, yeah, you got the people are saying it's Acela, and then there's the private one, Brightline in Florida, but it's not. It's actually not up to the same standards as like the high-speed rail that you see in China, because not all high-speed rail is the same. There's varying degrees of speed on high-speed rail. Yeah, Brightline sucks. It uses the same rail as freight. It takes as long to drive from Orlando to Miami. Yeah. The problem is like American high-speed rail average commute times are not up to snuff. They are not up to the standards of high-speed rail internationally. Our high-speed rail is a different standard. Quote unquote higher speed rail isn't the same thing either. It isn't even counted in this 80 kilometers. I don't think no American high-speed rail is even real. Yeah. Like American high-speed rail is not actually real high-speed rail, if that makes sense. It's fake. Couple reasons for why. One, it's nowhere near as fast. And two, it still operates with like freight trains as well on the same railroads. And therefore, the commute is always still the commute times are always still out of whack. This is one of the biggest issues with high speed or just rail transport in the United States of America, is that there is a tremendous priority for freight, because a lot of commerce takes place on the railroads, and freight trains. It's not just commerce. There's like, chemicals being transported, stuff like that. And the freight rail industry is an oligopoly owned by I think 3 corporations that also own the railroads as well in many of these places. And therefore they get to dictate, whatever the fuck they want to do. Very little regulation on how long the freight rail trains can be, how many cabins you can add, what kind of cargo they have, how heavy they are. Obviously, it's a massive problem, because sometimes they're so long that they end up blocking roads, for example. Sometimes not only are they long, but also sometimes because they overload it, and the regulation around freight rail that's supposed to be putting cargo all around the country, traveling all around the country with cargo, they will get derailed, causing issues. One of the ones that was very famous was Palestine, Ohio, if you remember. Stuff like East Palestine, Ohio, things like that happen all the time in America. I believe there's 1 derailment per day, if I'm not mistaken, in the United States of America. It's so commonplace that, or it's more than 1, but it's so commonplace that a lot of people don't even realize that it's happening all the time. And most of the time, people don't even cover it. The news media doesn't even cover it unless there's a lot of interest in that kind of story. I don't know. It's all busted across the board. But there are a lot more train derailments happening in the United States of America than you know of. And it's so commonplace that, and it happens to varying degrees. Sometimes it's not as like, sometimes it doesn't lead to like an ecological disaster. But these are some of the many reasons as to why American commuter rail is just simply not a viable method of transport. And it's also incredibly beneficial for the airline industry and even the car industry. The automobile industry and the airline industry get to be as profitable as they want to be and get to maintain oligopolies themselves. In the United States of America, an oligopoly is when a market is dominated by more than one, but because one would be a monopoly, but 3, sometimes 4, maybe 5 different companies, right? And there is tremendous corporate consolidation, and therefore they get to dictate the service that they're offering. They get to dictate the prices, and there's not a lot of competition there. There are very few entities and major pricing power, exactly. And these guys get to set their profit margins however way they see fit as a direct consequence of no market competition in transport. They've eradicated public transit and specifically eradicated interstate public transit, and therefore they get to drive up prices in any way, shape, or form they see fit. This is very beneficial. Our lack of commuter railway as an option, our lack of viability in commuter rail as an alternative to other forms of travel is incredibly beneficial for the airliners. And it's incredibly beneficial for the automobile industry as well. Yes, China doesn't have a bureaucracy. They do. Of course, China has a bureaucracy as well. But they also have a lot of motivation to improve their people's lives. That's it. Of course, they have bureaucracy. They have tremendous bureaucracy. The problem is it's a more efficient form of bureaucracy. I think ultimately, bureaucratic process or not, ultimately, what they do not have is the profit incentive playing a formative role in what the decisions the government makes. That's just the truth. A lot of people refuse to recognize that. A lot of people don't understand it. Hasanabi vindicated, chatter incorrect again.
Stop calling China.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's ultimately the major difference is the profit incentive is completely secondary. Specifically, Southwest Airlines has been caught multiple times lobbying the absolute shit out of Texas state legislator to ensure no passenger rail is built in Texas or South at large. Their business would not exist without killing intercity passenger transportation being suppressed in the South. That's not even true. So that part is also not even true. Like, of course, airliners would still exist. They exist in China. They exist everywhere. They exist in countries where they have a robust rail network. It just wouldn't be as profitable. That's the problem. That's the issue. It simply would not be as profitable. And you can't have that. Anyway, some people prefer airlines, the rail. Yeah. There's also there's obviously a range in your travel where if you go above a certain range, like if you go above a certain length of travel, like, yeah, air transport is always going to be more viable. Same with cargo, same with everything else. The problem is we don't even have the option. We don't even have the alternative. But yeah, if you're wondering why it's not if you're wondering why we don't have these kinds of, why we don't have these kinds of alternative modes of transport, well, it's endlessly profitable for many key industries. And that's a big part of it. Anyway, operational networks. China has now passed 50,000 kilometers in length. Spain is at 3.9K. America, let's see where the United States of America is. Operational length of the North American continent, United States high-speed rail is 136 kilometers, not 136,000, 136 kilometers. Yeah, China is at number 1, Spain is at number 2, France is at number 3 with 3,500, Germany is at 3,300. Turkey is at 1,000 at number 10, cracking the top 10 there. Finland is at 900. Russia is at 650. Taiwan is at 351. Poland is at 285. The United States of America is at 136 kilometers, and Hong Kong has 26, which is really funny. Thinking about Hong Kong having high-speed rail is pretty funny because Hong Kong is literally the size of a nugget in comparison to the entire, like, landmass of the United States of America, and we barely have 6 times the fucking high-speed rail of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a city. Okay? I need you to understand. Hong Kong is a city. Like in a normal planet, if you were to look at the actual landmass of these countries, understandably China is still going to be at the top because China is massive, right? Massive landmass. However, America should be up there. Right? Whether it be population density, whether it be the total landmass, if you look at the relative size of the country, America should be up there. And another country that should be up there is obviously Russia as well. Big L for Russia in that regard.